Welcome to the Behind the Racquet Pod, the podcast taking you behind the racket with today's top tennis players and biggest issues facing the sport.
Behind the Racquet is a community to give fans and players in the world of tennis the opportunity to open up like they have never done before.
Visit BehindTheRacquet.com for the latest stories, merch, as well as direct links to all of the latest podcasts. It can also be found on iTunes, Google Play, Pandora, Stitcher, and wherever you find your podcasts. Download the episodes and make sure to leave a review.
And we want you to be a part of the conversation. Find me at Noah Rubin 33 or Mike at Mike C Tennis on all forms of social media. You can also learn more at BehindTheRacquet.com or MikeCTennis.com.
Special thanks to my sponsor, New Balance. Visit their latest shoes and styles at NewBalance.com and learn more about their program of giving back at #NBGivesBack.
You can also help support the podcast by visiting patreon.com/BehindTheRacquetPod and receive rewards from our travels around the world. And now,
for a recap of Wimbledon this large, we needed to bring in some extra help. Blair Henley is here as we get to sit down, and I'm still wrapping my mind around this and introducing Wimbledon quarterfinalist Christopher Eubanks on the pod this week. Christopher, there's a lot to get to today.
Christopher, when did Mike?
That's what it says on your ATP. That's what it says on your ATP profile, and now you're a big deal.
50.
You're a member of
Mike, you've never, I don't believe you've ever called me Christopher.
That's true. I've not. So I think it was Saturday, I started receiving, I'm going to get just the ugliness out of the way, Chris, and just get the really hard hitting question out of the way. On I think it was Saturday, I received text from roughly 5 or 6 different people. And then we talked about it in the group chat as well. Your life has expanded so large over the last couple of weeks because of what's happened that all of a sudden Barstool Sports is just doing all sorts of investigations into your love life, apparently. And I don't know how to ask this question, but how did you...
How do you know her, and how does she get into Mike's life?
How did you talk your parents down from this article that you have been... your Wimbledon success was due to an adult film star?
Wow, Mike, you just coming out the gates, man. I thought we were going to bury that one where it lies. Okay. Yeah, so that was a bit of a surprise to me as well. So apparently, based on the article that you're talking about, yes, a lot of my success in Wimbledon was attributed to a certain adult film actress who made it a point to come and support some of my matches. But seemingly also taking a picture of the player guest logo on the floor. And it was a bit of a shock to me because I had no idea that this adult film star was at Wimbledon in the first place. It was a bit of I guess you can't even call it an oversight because I just had no idea. So I ended up seeing the article as well, or getting a heads up about that article that you're talking about a few hours before it dropped. And I couldn't, it was very vague what I heard. So I was like, I'm so confused at this. But then once I read the article, I said, oh, they're just putting together. I mean, very well done. Great investigative reporting.
It's pretty crazy because I thought it was worse because I thought I saw Trump.
I thought it was going to be worse too.
I also saw
I thought
Trump,
it was going to be a lot worse.
So I was like, Trump film. What is where are we? I was like, is the Trump side worse or the adult filmmaker worse? Yeah, no.
I was so confused, and I didn't know what to expect. Like I said, it was very vague, and said, "Hey, this is what it's going to say." You know, just kind of be prepared for it. And so I'm for the next maybe 30-minute hour, I'm just kind of like checking my phone, refreshing Twitter, like what did they say? Eventually I just said, you know what, I can't really control. I'm gonna go to sleep. It's been my recipe. Anything gets a little too like, yeah, I'm just gonna go to sleep. So I did that, and then I woke up and I saw it in the morning, and I saw the article. I said, "Oh, here it is." I read it, and I was like, "Oh, that okay, never mind." I just went on about my day, It's funny. But it's funny that you brought that up, Mike. Job well done to you and your investigative team. Job well done on finding
it's
that
like
one.
nude war over here. Yeah, he's good at
it. Congratulations. I think I speak obviously for all of us who were watching from afar. It was an incredible run, an incredible couple of weeks. I guess the first question from me, and then I'll let Blair do some actual journalism at some point here. How are you processing it over the last couple of days now that you've actually had the time to be home, be around people who you've known for a long period of time, and just how are you taking it all in at this point?
Yeah, it's been very, I didn't know what to expect. I think coming back, I had some friends who came over for the quarterfinal match. We got dinner that night, and when we did, they made it a point to say, "Man, like in Atlanta, you're all over the news. You're in, the local pizza shop. If they're airing a replay of a match, like they have that on and people are watching." And I just say, "Guys, come on, like yeah, okay, sure." And they were insisting. They're like, "No, man, like you'll see, like it's probably not going to be is just kind of free flowing as you're used to." And I was like, "Guys, come on, like, yeah, it was a big deal. It was Wimbledon. It'll die out and people are going to kind of forget." So I stay for another day after I lose, and then the following day I fly home, and I get to the airport. I'm in the customs line, and I can't find my passport real quick. So as I'm getting to the front, so I step to the side, I go in my bag, I find it, and the moment I kind of stand up, the people who were right there at the front of the line, who I guess paid me no attention at first, they were like, "Chris Eubanks?" And I went, "Yeah, yeah." And they were like, "Oh, we were watching you run at Wimbledon. So cool. Can we get a picture?" I'm like, "Sure. Okay, no problem." So I take a picture with them. And then all of a sudden, another group of like 2 or 3 people asked me for another picture. And I'm like, "Okay, this never happened before." Like, as soon as I step off. So I'll take a couple pictures, whatever. Get in the car, grab bags, go to first stop for me. It's going to be the original Chick-fil-A, the Chick-fil-A Dwarf House. It's like my first stop. I have to do it. So I go in there and I sit down. And when I sit down, I can see there's a couple people looking at me, not just like, "Oh, he's tall," but they're looking like kind of like staring a little bit. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if they know," whatever. I go to the restroom. I come back. There's a guy full blown looking like this, staring at and trying to nudge the kid across from him, maybe like a teenager. It's like to kind of look in my direction. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, they see me. Okay, this is weird." And then as I'm getting ready to pay, I stand up. A guy who was sitting directly next to me sees me, and I guess just it clicks right then. And he turns to me and he goes, "Hey, you guys, hey, my son also went to Westlake. We're so proud of you. Like, keep it up." Like, did it and gave me a fist bump. I was like, "Man, like this is different. This is weird." So I've had to adjust to a little bit of that since being home, just out of the ordinary. I earlier, a couple hours ago, I went and ate at one of my favorite Mexican restaurants, and a guy came up to me saying he went to high school with my older brother, and they were supporting me, and I'm just like, "Okay, thanks." Like, it's weird. It's very, very weird, and it's something I'm not used to. But I think I'm handling it fine. It's not. It hasn't been like like just massive outpouring of people coming up to me. So, but it's like, yeah, I go to the mall, I've got noticed. I go to restaurants, I get noticed. Like it's a little weird right now, but I think it's just it's cool right now. It's still a cool kind of weird. It's an easily adjustable. Like, oh, people might speak to me more when I'm out, and not just tell me that I'm tall. Now they actually know what I do. So in that sense, I'll say it's definitely been a positive, because now people don't ask me about basketball nearly as much. They just assume they figured it out, and we just deal with tennis. They ask about tennis. So long story, but like that's kind of been the adjustment that I've had to kind of do, and it's a bit weird, but like I say, it's been fine.
Yep. My follow-up on that is, have you been a tennis player in the United States for all your life? You really thought the attention was going to die out for an American player heading into the US Open? Is that really a thought that you had, Chris Eubanks?
Yes, but the thing is, I understand within the tennis community, it's definitely going to be a lot different, I think, for me at tournaments, at least over these next few months. But this is just my mind kind of sticks to the outside tennis community still won't care. I didn't win it. If I won it, then that's when people, I feel like, really, really start to care. But I knew that, having that run at Wimbledon, especially my time at tournaments, is going to be a lot different. And the buzz around it is going to be different. I think that's cool. Like, that's something I kind of, I guess, somewhat expected. But just getting noticed at like a restaurant in Atlanta, trying to grab food, like, that's not, I didn't fully process that. Oh, that comes with it. Like, there are going to be people who maybe don't know that much about tennis, but may know you now. And I didn't even think of that at first. And when I spoke on the podcast, like with Francis and Ben that time, and I talked about, what comes with a big Grand Slam run, I was thinking specifically about like kind of the tennis effects of it, not necessarily outside of tennis. So yeah, it's been a bit of an eye opener for me.
I will say it's a bit different, and I hate to say it because I have to like fucking compliment you on it, but it's people like you. Like, it was different, and Francis's run was unique at US Open. We saw that, but people were actually like, I like this guy. Like, I want to go out to dinner with him. I want to hear him speak, and I want him to be the only one speaking. And that is what we heard. And I was like, you don't really know him. Like, relax, take a second out. But that's what people wanted to see. And I'm curious if in the round of 16 match, how much pressure you put on yourself to be like, quarter would sound really good. Quartering is very different for, even though it's a second week, because that is the separation.
Well, especially after what he said in that conversation with Francis and with Ben, just about how quarters at Wimbledon is special.
You said second week is a huge deal. You get there, it's a massive, but round of 16, you can't, that's explaining to somebody, but quartering, what was that? Any thought go in?
Yeah, what's funny is throughout, because I think Mallorca started it, and it meant that I just played the next match. And again, because I think Mallorca being a Saturday final, there wasn't much time in between each match to really kind of consider what was happening the moment. Like, even in the quarters there, I never really thought like, oh man, I've never been past a quarterfinal. Like, this would be cool to make semi. And then I semi'd, and it wasn't like, oh man, the semifinals, this is big. Like, now I'm in the final. Oh man, I'm in the final of an ATP. I didn't have the time, because every match was pretty much, we started on Monday and ended on Saturday. So it was just kind of playing. What's the next match? Okay, finish that match. What's the next one? Finish that on Saturday, get to Wemby on Sunday. So that day is a bit of a tough of a wash, kind of, just because I was just trying to fill the court, and then had Monday off and played on Tuesday. But then again, it was Tuesday, play, Thursday, play, Friday, having to deal with rain delays and stuff back and forth. My focus was really just on the match, and I never really considered like the round. I knew the round, like I knew what it was, but after Nori, for instance, I hadn't even really looked at the draw. I didn't know who the next player was. I had no idea who came out of that side. So then Ruan says, oh, you play O'Connell. I was like, oh, okay. So then we played Chris, got through that one. And then right after the match, I did an interview with Brad Gilbert, and he's the one who told me Tsitsipas was up 2 sets on a break. I didn't know Tsitsipas was the next player. I had no idea. I was just literally looking at who the next opponent was, and then that's kind of where my energy went. And so even after the match with Stefanos, I don't think I really realized I was in the quarterfinals until probably the morning of the match. It was the first time that I like had a realization that, wait, I won 4 matches at a slam just now, like leading up to this. And I don't think that it was about 5 minutes the morning of the match. I don't think that played in any part in how I played or not winning. I don't think there was just about a 5-minute stint while I woke up. I looked at my phone, and obviously my phone was going crazy, but so I couldn't get to all the messages, but I checked a few emails, and I checked normal social media feed and my whatever. And it was just, I was like, man, I'm in the quarters today. This is wow. And so I didn't really consider it in the 4th round. It was just kind of like, all right, what am I going to do to try to upset Steph? Like, that's kind of, it wasn't considering, oh, I wanted to make quarters. I had said would love to have had that opportunity. I think if I had thought about that stuff, I don't think I would probably win that match. I genuinely don't. When I say that the past 3 weeks was just a blur of matches, it was just, what's the next match? What round? I don't know the round. Okay, what's the next match? Okay, that's a matchup I can focus on. What's the next match? It wasn't like I'm in the semis of a 250 or a final of a 250 or 3rd round of a. It was just like, all right, I play Chris O'Connell. Okay, I play Tsitsipas. Okay, I play Medvedev. But before that morning up that Medvedev, I was like, whoa, this has been a wild few weeks. And I kind of just took it in for a little bit then. So yeah, I know going into the match with Steph in the fourth round, I didn't have that like, wow, like, oh my God moment. It was just like, all right, I got to play Steph, see what happens. And good things happened. And then I was like, oh, cool.
So I have two follow-ups to that. Number one, are you like Stevie Johnson was, I was in Chicago, Stevie Johnson was there, and he said, I think he's going to win the whole thing. Like he actually said that. He's just like, it's not Taylor, it's not Riley, it's not Tommy, it's not me, it's not any of these guys. It's Chris Eubanks. He's going to win Wimbledon. Are you telling me that you really didn't at any point have this just like, holy crap, I could win Wimbledon? That's number one. And number two, your second round in Mallorca, I know you're kind of just looking play. You beat Ben Shelton. He got you twice at the end of last year, and then obviously the quarterfinal in Australia. How much did that mean? So those are my two.
Yeah, no, I never really for a second said I'm gonna or thought that I was gonna win it. It wasn't a. I could say that was the furthest thing from my mind, if I'm being honest. It wasn't even about the magnitude of, oh, I could win Wimbledon. It was like, oh, I have to beat like the opponent. And I know it might sound cliche, but it was what it was. It was just like I was looking at the opponent. But around that quarterfinal time, like say that morning of that match, when I did kind of have a wow moment, there was a little bit of for a split second, like, ooh, that's to play Alcaraz, to play Novak. Like, just kind of for a split second, like,
right,
thinking about what could be. But at the end of the day, that was still 15 sets away. Like it was, or however, well, no, I had to win it 9 more sets to that point. It wasn't, I didn't even think that much about it. It probably would have been 15 sets the way that I went 5 sets in the fourth and
was it like
and quarters.
Was it like imposter syndrome though? Like how often do you say, "Oh God, I got to play Alcaraz and Novak to win a slam"? Like, did you feel like
no,
what
not
the fuck
really?
is
Just
happening right now?
I didn't sit in that space that long because I was just like, oh, I got to get Medvedev has gotten me like.
But even Tsitsipas to Medvedev, like how often is that happening? Especially like, was that a thought of like, what am I doing here, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a couple of times where I had to like blink and say, man, I beat Nori to play, and then beat Tsitsipas. Like you've seen guys enough times, players in general, who may have a big upset at Wimbledon or a big upset in a slam, but then they have a hard time following up the match after. But then like it was a bit kind of wild to me to think that like I followed it up not just the match after, but the match after that, and that one was against the top 5 player. Like that was the one that I was kind of like, again, when I began to reflect later, that I was like, that's pretty special. Like that was pretty incredible. Like not just to follow up the win against Cam, because I mean, I still say I think that match against Cam, maybe some of the like, yes, the Tsitsipas match was incredible. Obviously, 4th round, top 5, but to play the number 1 Brit at Wimbledon in court 1, my first time on court 1, that win will always be really, really special and probably be the win that really sticks out in my head the most of all of them. Just considering the magnitude of the court that I was on against who I was playing in their home country, that one I think still is a little bit more special. But yeah, after the fact, I did, like you said, have that question like, how did this happen? How did I get past the Nori and then the O'Connell and then the stuff like that's crazy. But then I would quickly, if I spent too long in it, I was like, all right, how am I going to serve Medvedev if he stands super deep? Like, then it kind of just went back to X's and O's. It made things easier. It kind of quieted my mind. And that was kind of, that was the thought process surrounding that.
I want to hear the Shelton answer as well.
The Shelton answer. So, yeah, second round. I mean, I played Ben, and I mean, there were obviously going into the match, no real secrets amongst us. I knew I was going to have to serve well because I'm like, man, especially the courts in Mallorca really, really suit big servers a little bit more than others, I think. The bounces at times could be a bit more inconsistent. The court's a lot jumpier, so you do get variety on the kick, serve, and stuff. So I knew that. I'm like, Ben's going to come in and be kicking me so far this way and then hitting a 140 in my body. Like, I got to try to serve well to just apply a little bit of pressure. And, I mean, I think there was a lot of moments in that match and the quarterfinal match against Lloyd in which I just straight up got lucky. And there's no way around it. I got lucky in the tiebreaker. I guessed right and then hit a net court on a point in which he came in, I think, to give me like one of the first mini breaks. I had some lead courts that really went my way for the past 3 weeks. I had some against Ben, I had some against Lloyd, I had some against Nori. I went on a run of some lead courts that were just falling in my favor. So that also played a part. But yeah, I mean, the match itself, I thought was a fun match. It was an exciting match, but it did feel pretty good. Like, I was like, man, finally got that young boy, like at least once. And I joked with him and I said, you know, you got to let me have at least one, man, because this might be one of the only ones that I ever get off of you. So that was cool. But no, that was a really, really cool match for me. And you know, to you know, win it, to get into the quarters, and then how everything else played out afterwards. Obviously, that match was huge. Any 7-6 in the third in a run like that is huge.
I texted you during that, or it was maybe after, and I was like, we have to go back to this, so I have to find it somewhere, because people were giving Ben shit for losing to you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a week, it was like, I can't believe you lost. This guy's a bum. Like, can't believe you lost to him, especially on grass. Like, the guy was just talking about how much he hates grass. And then you win 9 matches later, and the guy's like, I'm sure whoever this guy's in his basement is like, fuck, that was bad. Bad look there.
Yeah, the loss doesn't look that bad after the fact.
Oh, that's tough. All right. Well, I have so many questions. We could be here all night. We won't be here all
we
night.
can do it. No, we can. I kept you guys waiting because I was too busy sleeping. So I took a nap because I was looking forward to this, and I wanted to make sure my mind was fresh. But boy, that nap took over for a little bit, I tell you.
Well, first of all, I want to get at some point to the winner count, because I still can't quite wrap my head around that. But I want to touch on first something that Noah said, which I feel like we're all nodding our heads, is that you connected with people the way, I mean, we know a lot of people who have had big runs in big places, and we personally know and love them, but they have not connected with the greater public the way that this run did. It doesn't take long, I don't think, for people to say, okay, he's a good dude. And I feel like in that space, the result is people start wanting things from you, and they want to make requests. And I'm curious, at 27, like, obviously out of college would have been great to have an experience like this at 22, but do you think in some ways you were better suited for it all at 27?
1000%. I don't think I handle what comes with it. I don't think I would have been mature enough to handle it at 22 or 23. And to divert real quick, I was watching a podcast yesterday, and where they were talking about Nikola Jokic, and he made the comment about how basketball is a job and nobody likes their job. And Draymond Green was talking about it, and he says, listen, like, we all love the game of basketball, but the job of what comes with it is a thing, like, totally independent. Like, the press, the getting treatment when you don't feel like it, the doing the you know, your strength and conditioning sessions when you don't feel like it, like, that's the job of basketball. When you get on the floor and you're just playing, he goes, we'll do this for free. But it's what comes with it that is the business behind it, and it's what can turn a lot of people off. I think in this run to Wimbledon, I got to see more of the business about it, about a run like that, and just the things that come with it, like the phone going off at all hours of the night. When I had that first run in Atlanta in 2017, like, I couldn't sleep after matches because my phone was going off so much, and I just wanted to check it. I wanted to respond to everybody. I wanted to check it. I wanted to constantly have it on in case someone wanted to check my social media at all times. And then I kind of hadn't had that much of a crazy run since really Miami. And I think Miami kind of prepared me a little bit, because there I kind of left my phone off a little bit. It was easier for me to kind of see the phone going off and say, I'm not going to check it. I'll check it whenever. Whereas in 2017, when that happened, I wanted to check everything, like, live and up to the day, up to the minute. So I think that it kind of helped me that there was a little bit of time in between. And when this happened, it was just, especially around semis or finals of Mallorca, I put my phone on do not disturb, and I had the people that I, like, really needed to talk to or wanted to talk to, or if I saw messages from, like, you, Blair, or Mike, or Noah, I would always respond to those. But there were some people who I'm just like, I got to get to you later. Like, I just can't overextend myself. And I don't think I do that at 22 or 23. I think I still try to please everyone. I try to hit everyone back. I try to do every single media request. Whereas now, like I did some, and then there was some I'm like, I'm sorry guys, like I can't just keep doing this like over and over and over again. So I'm a bit more selective on the media stuff that I'm taking on, because I still want the tennis to be the main thing, and I don't want to lose that. But when I do something, it's like, okay, this interests me, or I'm talking to, I text Mike, I think even before the tournament was up, maybe it was before the quarterfinal match, before the Tsitsipas match, and I said, BTR pod when this is over,
and
he said no, so I'm sure he quickly changed his mind. But yeah, so I've done a decent job of kind of being able to separate things that come with it, or the business side of tennis, and just still stay myself and just focus on the tennis when that time comes. So yeah, I definitely think I'm way better suited to handle it now at 27 than me at 22 or 23.
A lot. Should we get to the winner count?
Do it.
I mean,
do it. Yeah, I know it's a billion, but go.
I mean, 321 tournament record, the most winners ever struck in a championships, and you lost in the quarterfinals. Explain. I mean, those are like zone numbers, but people generally aren't in the zone for like match after match. Why? Explain.
To be honest, I don't know. It didn't feel like I was going out there just trying to crank. It didn't feel it didn't feel anything, say, out of the ordinary. Like, I kind of go out there with like an aggressive style. If I get a short ball, I'm probably going to clock it, and we're going to live with the result. I also think that I had never played. Well, I know I had never played. What was that? 5 best-of-5 matches. So that was going to lend itself to having a higher winner count anyway. Just because of the style that I play. One match being 4 sets, another match being 4 sets. One match that was, 3 sets, another match that was 5 sets, and another match. Like, I had enough time to rack up a lot of winners. I was on court enough.
So do a lot of other people, though, to be clear.
Federer had that opportunity a lot of times, like.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't like a concerted effort to try to be overly aggressive. It was just the balls were there to be hit, and I was like, well, I've been hitting them well for the past week, so I might as well just give it a crank and see. And then at a certain point, the confidence just continues to grow. Like, some of the backhands up the line that I came up with, some of the returning that I came up with, just in good moments, was just more confidence than anything. It wasn't a concerted effort to say I'm about to just keep everything short. It's like I tend to keep points short anyway. I was just kind of I will say there were certain points and pockets. I think of the Nori match, at the end of the O'Connell match, and for the second, third, and a lot of the fourth set against Medvedev, I was like, man, I'm hitting the ball well right now. Where I just knew it. I could just feel it. I'm like, oh, today the ball feels really good off the strings. And I know that pretty quickly usually. But yeah, it was like Blair said, I haven't felt that sustain for like an extremely long time, or like multiple matches. I get you a good 1, maybe even 2, but like 3 and 4, it was pretty different than I'm accustomed to.
On the athlete side, just out of curiosity, obviously you said hit a decent amount of winners, but the body, how did you survive? Or did you feel anything? Or was it nothing? Did the body feel okay throughout?
I feel completely fine. I didn't feel a single ache or pain or anything out of the ordinary. It was just like,
must be fucking
nice. It honestly just felt like I was waking up and then just playing a first match again. Like, there were times in which, say, post match, I felt it. Maybe like getting going on the off day practice, like getting going was a bit like just getting jump started. But when match time came, like every match I walked on the court, I felt 100%. I was very, and to be honest, I was a bit shocked. I was waiting, and I'm like, oh, it's the shoulder. I've been serving a lot. Is the shoulder going to start giving me problems? I mean, I lived in the training room. So I was getting stretched, hip mobs, massage. Started to do ice baths later in the tournament, but I was living in the training room, and nothing, thank goodness, I think goodness for it, but like knock on wood, nothing came up.
So that means they had Cracker Barrel over there too, or I mean,
that might have been the reason the body held up. They didn't have Cracker Barrel over there.
Yeah, Mike, tell your doc that
my doctor, who he wanted to make sure it wasn't racist, but he did tell me to tell you to put on some weight. So I don't know why that has to do with race.
Tennis fans. Yeah, tell them keep being a doctor. It's okay. Keep being
Well,
a
he was
doctor.
worried about your, being
Yeah,
able
he was.
to
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was totally
100%
about
strictly based on medical
risk.
advice. Never spoken to me, never given me
No.
an examination, but he knows what I need.
He loved that, and he also loved showing me the Francis Tiafoe sex sounds video, which I love those two things. I don't
big kick out of that.
Very odd
Big
situation.
tennis fan.
Huge. He's city champion twice in 83 and 84, but that's beside the point. Chris, what has changed about your game? And I want to bring Ruan into this as well.
Ruan.
Yeah, because I mean this with all due respect. Like, Ruan hasn't reinvented the wheel here. He hasn't like come up with this new invention of how to make Chris Eubanks the best version of himself necessarily, that maybe some of the coaches you've had in the past probably had some of the similar type of things to say. So what is it about this relationship? What is it about you now that's allowed you to kind of take in some of these different thoughts about your game? Because you've been a stubborn guy at times. I mean, you have very distinct thoughts about your game. So how have you kind of let Ruan in and allowed you to flourish?
I think that part of it also is timing. If the first tournament that Ruan and I started, which is the U.S. Open last year, the tournament that I played right before that was the Chicago Challenger. I lost first round. And I hit a point where I was just over it. I had a conversation with Dean Goldfine. I was like, Dean, I'm sick of being in challenge. Like, I'm really over it. Like, and we sat down, we talked for like 10, 15 minutes. I said, I know I can be better than this, but I'm just over. I just feel like I owe it to myself to try to just start being a lot more particular about every little detail, because like this thing that I'm doing right now is really, really frustrating. And I'm sick of it. And I think Ruan was the perfect guy at the perfect time, because when he played, like, he was very professional already. He would go and see the physios more. He would go and get stretched. He would go and get tournament offer massage. He was going to get one. So I think in that timing in which we got there, luckily the first tournament with the US was the US Open, where it's a bit easier to get all of that extra stuff in, all getting the warm up and the cool down. There's tons of bikes all the way all over the site. The physios are great. The massage is right there. It's all super convenient. So it was like the first time in which I bought into all of those little things of seeing the physios a couple times a day, getting the massage and getting the cool downs. It was the first tournament in which I kind of bought into that. And then I saw immediate success and I won my first Grand Slam match. So then it became very easy to buy into the whole process of, let me start doing these. Let me go see the physios even more now. Let me, get the ice bath in after every match at a slam. Let me do all these other little things. Let me make sure I'm sleeping enough. All these other little things. And when I saw the instant kind of like effect of it, for me, it was just like, all right, let's keep doing it. So I think that's first thing on the off the court stuff. On the court, I think he's just given me a much clearer identity and made me far more comfortable in coming forward, because I have a clear plan of what I'm trying to do and where volleys go in certain positions. Sometimes it would just be very easy if you came to net. You typically, at least with me, always like to volley open court. Guys who defend well can run it down, 2-shot pass. It's kind of how it always goes. But one of our first times when we actually, I think it was after the Open with Ron, and we broke down like transitioning to net and stuff, volleying back behind has been such a huge thing and a concept. And volleying with my body weight. So if I'm leaning to the left and I'm taking a forehand volley, not really trying to go the other way and taking it line, but just going with my body weight and then positioning and being ready to be in an explosive position to attack the second one. When I have the clarity of, if I'm in this position, I'm just going to hit the volley here, it makes it a lot, there's less thinking that has to go on. And that was one of the first things that we broke down. Like, hey, if I'm serving a volley into a specific spot, well, now I can kind of shade where they're likely to take their return, or if I'm approaching here, I kind of know where they may go, and if they go here, take it right back to where they are, because then it cuts off their options. Usually, I would just try to go open court everything, drop, and then guys defend well. I get passed all the time. So, like, me having that understanding when I'm coming to net now, it again, when I saw success of it pretty early, which was really in the indoor challengers last year, when the concerted effort of coming forward was probably at its highest. and I saw I could do it well, then it was like, oh, let's keep doing a little bit of that every practice. Let me keep going to the physios. Let me keep getting the warm-ups and cool. It was just kind of I think I got very, very lucky with the timing of him coming into my career. And I was very lucky because the success that we had was pretty quick, which a lot of times does not happen. So again, after that, it made it easy to kind of buy into all that stuff because I started to feel more comfortable at net. And I felt like I was putting together more consistent matches. I was winning 3 or 4 matches a week for a little bit of time. And then that felt good because that's something I hadn't done in probably years. So I think it was a timing thing and just X's and O's on the court. And for me, the timing of me just being ready to listen and being ready to try something that may make me a little uncomfortable at the time. Because like I said, I was fed up after Chicago. I was like, man, I'm sick of this. Like I'm really, really tired of it now. So yeah, I think it was a timing thing and just kind of giving me guidance in an area, like I said, professionalism that maybe I didn't have or maybe not have been receptive to early in my career.
I think from someone that's seen you kind of on court a decent amount, we practiced together when you were going for it and missing. I don't know if you always thought that was the right play. You know, I saw you kind of apprehensive at times, being like, is this the way I should be playing? And I think for people that don't know Ruan, he was always the last, like sometimes doubles players sneak into the singles event as alternates. For people that don't know, Ruan was like the last person you want to see. He played his style. He knew what he had to do. He was going to slice, pretty big whippy forehand, and then come to net and be scary. You know, this is a South African guy literally marching to net. And for people that don't know, he took out Nori at UVA at a challenger there in Charlottesville. So I think, you know, you said yourself, but the honing in on the identity, Ruan knew how he played. He knew what he was going to do well, and he actually gained that success and probably one of the more underrated double singles players.
Yeah, for sure.
And should have been better. And I think it showed immediately where for you watching some of those early matches, it was like, oh, Chris is okay missing that ball. Where maybe in the challenger,
I would freak out over Aaron misses. Like now when I miss, I'm just like, all right, well, that one got away. Or but I know that I know I know the good misses and I know the bad misses now.
Yeah.
The good misses don't bother me nearly as much as they used to.
No, we see it immediately.
Yeah, well, that was something you talked about on the court. People like really seized on that commentator comment that you made in the on-court interview about being able to say, okay, that was a good miss in the middle of a match. It's obviously sometimes it's hard to do that in the moment, but I thought back so many times to something you said to me actually in Newport last year, which was that time that you spent as a commentator. Like, yes, it maybe made you see your tennis slightly differently, but it also freed you up on court because you were like, okay, if my career does end in a month, there's something that I can make money doing. And I feel like that's maybe a misconception, especially with guys who go to college. And Noah, maybe you can speak to this too, is like, well, they, you know, guys and women as well, like they went to college, they'll be fine after tennis, but starting a career at like maybe 28 or 29 or 30, like that's scary. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, 100%. I think that, and I think that's a really good point. There was a sense of calm that came over me when I first started doing commentary, and I realized like, oh, I could actually maybe do this. Because then it's like, similar, like you say, worst case scenario, God forbid an injury, or I just can't win a match for however long. I'm not as worried about, do I get into coaching? Do I go back to school to finish my degree? Like what would be the next step? I knew it. I said, oh, I could do this. So the backup plan is there. And I know it's there, and I know it could be, I can do well. I was like, I feel like I can do well in this space. So then when I get back on the court, there's a freedom that comes with it. And I'm just kind of out there playing. And then it's not exactly the same, but it's a similar freedom that I felt even post Miami, going on that 3-month like trip that I had to play Korea, Geneva, Paris, Surbiton, Stuttgart, Halle, because I was trying to explain it to somebody and it'd be easier to clarify it here, I feel like. But your career doesn't change that much going from 85 to 60 or maybe even 55. Top 50, it's a fair bit different. But 85 and 65 is kind of roughly all the same. And it's a big jump in points like to kind of get there. So once I kind of got further enough inside the top 100 where I didn't feel like I was at a risk of falling out like in a week or two, I was like, well, okay, I got over that hurdle. Now let's just play and let's see, like, let's just go. And it's a similar type of freedom. I felt like, just because once I got up to 85, if I lost. Here's a perfect example, was in that Korea trip in Busan. I lost to Vukic in the quarters, and I had 2 or 3 match points. And after the match, like, Ruan comes up and he's like, tough one, man. Like, how'd it go? And I was like, hey, players are going to lose matches after they have match points. Like, Fed had 2 match points against Novak in the final of Wimbledon. He didn't get it. And I'm sure his hurt a lot more than this one. Like, and I was just kind of like, it's all part of the journey. Time to move on. Whereas if that had happened, if I was like 106 and that win could have gotten me into like 95, I would have been devastated. I would have been absolutely distraught. But because I was already in and I felt free, I was like, oh, that's just part of tennis. Probably won't be the last time I lose a match after having match points. Just we'll figure it out and keep on moving, because I just feel free. And it's similar to that. After I felt like I had kind of what that backup plan would be, I was just able to play free. And that's kind of when it started. My mindset of being like, just kind of embrace taking some chances, these winners, these errors, whatever. But yeah, it's a very, very like interesting point. Now, like, again, it does change top 50. It's a little different now. That's when it does change that much. But like I say, like, I just felt like, but even still, I'm not even focusing on it. Like, yeah, I think the cut right now I'm at 31, and that's the cut. That'll be my cut ranking for the US Open. That's cool. If I get seeded for the Open, great. But most of the Opens that I played, I was sitting at like 160, 170. Like, relatively speaking, I'm gonna be doing okay. Like, if I'm like 30 or 50, so I'm excited about it, and I'm able to play free because I still have, I think, that perception of like the guy that was like 180 for a while. So,
okay, but it's easy to say that. But now you are a target. I mean, yeah, you might be seated at the US Open. I mean, going into Atlanta next week, and congratulations on actually getting into Atlanta.
I know I was sweating a little bit, I was so nervous. Oh my goodness.
You haven't played yet since, so I know it's not exactly fair to ask this, but how are you going to handle the fact that now you are the target? You are a statement win for Alex Mickelson, who you beat in Mallorca, and now is a quarterfinalist with Blair in Newport. But like, how do you handle that? How do you just keep that same expectation level, keep that relaxed mode, and just accepting of what is in front of you?
I don't, probably just not dwelling on it too much. I don't know. Like, I genuinely, and again, I'm saying this and I haven't played a match since Wimbledon, but I genuinely feel like I'm going to be like, the stuff that I was saying in the media, and I think some people, you look at it and on its surface level, Noah's probably going to roll his eyes, but like, it sounds super cliche of just me saying, like, at this point, wherever my career ends up, it ends up. Like, it's very true, and it's truly how I feel. I think that for a lot of the years of my career, I obsessed over winning because of what it would do to like the number or like my ranking. And that's where my drive was. I wanted to win because I wanted that live ranking to move up 6 spots. And I obsessed over that. And I've just sitting here in the past 6 months, I've been way more invested in like the process of the stuff that we talked about, going to the physios, getting this. If we're going to say we're going to do these specific feeds at the end of every practice, hey, Ron, let's get the feeds in. Let's do the stuff that we've been doing to get to this point. And then whatever happens, happens. Like, it's at this point, it's again, I don't want it to sound overly satisfied, but it's a bit more like the cherry on top, because of my perception for the past 5 years has been in that 150 to 200 range. And it's like, I think there's a sense of gratefulness, like, that I'm in the position I'm in now, and a sense of realizing that when I obsessed over winning and like my numbers and my ranking and what it could do, that's why I was 150 to 220. Like, that's part of the reason I think that there's probably other factors as well. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't open enough to some change, but I think that was a big part of it. I was focused so much on the wrong thing. Whereas now I'm just focusing on like the process of it. I'm focusing on like making sure I get that treatment in, or getting the cool down in, or getting my protein in 15 minutes. Like, at the end of the day, if I feel like I did all of that stuff and I go into the match and I give it 100% and I lose in the match, I think I'll be good to be like, all right, on to the next week. We'll see. Yes, if I were to lose early and you know, and especially going into the Open, which is going to be a big one, of course I'm going to be disappointed. But in my head, if I go through my checklist and the things that have got me to this point, I continue to do, and let's say I just had a bad day and I just ran up on somebody who maybe was just hot that day, I take it, I hold my head, and I move on and get ready for the next week, because I think it's shown that when I invest in the process, good things are going to happen. They may not come when I want them to happen. So I would love for them to continue for US Open. But if it doesn't, and I can continue the stuff that I've been doing, it's going to come together at some point, and I'll be ready for it, if that makes sense.
Can I just point out quickly that at the beginning of this podcast, no joke, I wasn't sure that we were going to make it through. Like, I felt like we had just surprised you at 6 a.m. and you have like morphed into Tennis Channel, Chris. Like before our very eyes, your face has become less swollen.
Oh my goodness. Listen, when I woke up, I cannot believe my alarm didn't go, or maybe it did go off. I'm just glad I woke up to know it's called. And I'm glad my phone wasn't on Do Not Disturb. So that was actually very, very clutch. Yeah, because it usually is. And I felt the ring. I answered it, and it's at 8:40. I was like, we were supposed to be on 15 minutes ago. Hey, I feel
PM,
so
by
bad.
the way, PM
Yeah,
for those
yeah. This
listening.
is just a post Cracker Barrel nap. It's no big deal.
I had three asada con maduros, tacos, baby,
Oh my
tacos.
God. But I have to ask, because you said satisfied, and I'm not saying you don't want to be top 20, blah, blah, all that shit. But do you feel like you did something in tennis? Do you feel like, you know, not the whole work was all for something, but you accomplished something? You did it?
Yeah,
Because you know, I mean, I just, when I'm outside or walking, people talk about three things, you know, because people don't really know tennis well, especially on the outside. So they always bring up, I would say, three things that you have, and we all have them. But now you have a ranking, which you could talk about. You know, it's not triple digits, and you just say I quartered Wimby. Like, that's it. You could just say I quartered Wimby, you move on with your life. Do you feel that?
No, I haven't felt the need to play that card yet. No, but no, to answer your question, like, yeah, it is cool. Like, especially I think that and you'll know it, Noah, when like we're coming out or we're young and maybe we see a coach that we don't know, and you'll kind of ask like, oh, who's that guy? And they'll say something like, oh yeah, that guy, he quartered the Open. Right. And in your head, you're immediately like, oh man, that dude was a baller then.
Like, or any pro-am, like, Blair does a pro-am. It's like, here's Chris, and you know, or he's like 140 in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Or you see like
you're like, oh shit, he's 140. He's not that good, you know.
Yeah, you see a commentator starts to talk in, and you're like, well, let me look up how good this guy was since you hear him talking so much. And then you're like, oh, he was top 50. Never mind, got it. No more needs to be said. Like, just be like, oh yeah, I quartered Wimby. Kind of like you say, is a wild thing that like people, it will be. To me, it's a wild thing that's going to be attributed to me for like the rest of my time, like rest of my life, pretty much. You could say like, oh yeah, he final 8 Wembley. Like I got the pin. I got the pin right there. Like it's literally over there.
It's a
like,
pin?
It's a pin. I can wear it on like a lapel.
I want a little more than that, to be honest. But we'll talk about that another time.
My nice suits on Tennis Channel. I have my 8 pin. You'll know. Like,
custom made
suit. Custom. Oh, now they weren't custom before. But yeah, that is a cool thing to think about. That's going to be thrown to me and associated with me for the rest of my life. And I know what in my head what that does when I hear somebody like, oh yeah, that guy he quartered Wimby, or he quartered you're immediately like, this guy was a baller. Like
it's funny because I have cool. Junior Wimby. I'm coming back to tennis, obviously, to be top 100 before you. But besides that, thanks. I just don't want one of my 3 things to be a junior event. Like, that's always killed me, you know. Like, I've never played a match.
You played Rogers' second round Australia,
right? And that's
also one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, he played Fed like not first round, because you're kind of like, he played in first round. Oh, he played Rogers' second round. Oh, okay, never mind. Oh yeah, he's tough.
I can't. That's always killed me, having like a junior tournament being like one of those 3 things at a pro-am or anything that I do. So that's always been. So now you're done. You have a ranking. You have an ATP of. Well, you're done. Nobody cares anymore, you know. But it's true. Like an ATP, which is amazing in the tennis world, great. Just outside, people don't care. You know, Mallorca is not going to be the make or break as much.
No,
it's true. It's true.
Blair cares.
I care.
I always care. I will be
Mike
a cheerleader no matter what.
Oh God, Blair never invited back ever.
I'm in the group chat now forever.
Let's go. Let's go.
Blair,
yes.
I have a couple of like short ones. Blair, do you have anything you want to get to with Chris?
I just had one follow-up, and I feel like
I feel like this is a setup. Mike knows
well,
that Blair has something because the way he was
no,
looking.
I don't. No,
Okay.
I feel like it's sort of a tale as old as time, though, that, you know, just like if you think about wealth, this is like wealth in terms of results. But if you're thinking about like material wealth, you get used to a standard. And over time, if you don't have that standard, it could become more disappointing. How important is it to have people, I mean, maybe in the group chat, I don't know, the people you're close to, your mom, who I can't wait to meet at the US Open, just like the people who are close to you to remind you of these things that you're saying, because I do think there could come a time, knowing how well you can play, knowing that you can be the one hitting 321 winners at Wimbledon, that maybe there could be disappointment. So how important is it to have those people who can, you know, slap you upside the head?
Yeah, I think it is important for sure, because I think that's the one that's so many things around a person can change fast, but what's always kind of grounding is like those same voices and those same people kind of delivering the same message. Like that's a good way to continue to like pull you back home and to ground you and put you back. Okay, like let's continue to think big picture, and like you say, remind you of these conversations when things aren't going well. Oh, maybe I need a change, or maybe you got to accept that you have to continue the process and just trust the results are going to come when they're going to come. Like, remember you said that. And I think that's 100. That's probably one of the biggest contributing factors to people who have been able to have a lot of success, but they still stay hungry and they stay grounded and they stay like themselves, because they surround themselves with people who constantly can remind them of that. I do think, and again, it's very easy to say right now, I do think that because I understand how hard it was to get to this point, I don't think that I'm going to have as much of a problem continuing with this mindset, even if things are going poorly, because inevitably they are. Like there comes a time where no matter how fast players will send up, there's a little bit of getting stagnant at some point where it's you've seen this rapid ascension, and now they have some rough weeks and they may be a little up and down. It's going to happen. It's part of the tour. Guys are too good. It's going to happen. And I think I know that. So it's even more of, like I say, reinforcement to just continue to put my head down and just focus on the process, and then where it plays out, because you can only control so much in the sport. And it's like, I'm going to control what I can control. After that, and that's worked for me. After that, we'll figure the results out when match day comes.
Life Mike, lessons. You want my last thing Mike. Before you, or no?
You go ahead.
This is my favorite part, when, you know, people around me came up to me and they're like, you know, Chris did it, you can't. And I'm like, we're not the same here. Like, what? That how many times that I told one of my closer friends, I was like, you're not gonna believe it. 6 times today, somebody come like, yo, Chris. And I was like, yeah, it's motivating. Can't wait to get back to tour. I'm excited. I know there's potential. He's a 6'9" black man. I'm a 5'9" Jew. Like, what are we doing? We're not. This is
Noah. You too can hit 321 winners in a Wimbledon. You too.
Well, you missed my tweet. I said
in like 10 years.
I said I haven't done that in my career.
I chuckled.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I was like, are you kidding? This is not apples to oranges. This is apples to chicken. Sorry.
No,
wow.
Yeah. As soon as it came out, you know, it was thinking, and then the first food.
You know, on Twitter how they have the racist bark dog?
Yeah. Or the
wolf.
That's racist.
Wolf.
Yeah, that's right.
Wolf.
This is what happens when you keep us going. It's 10 o'clock.
Welcome to the group chat, Blair.
So happy to be here.
Noah, let me ask a question, Noah. No, when you said chicken, what do you mean by that?
Fried chicken.
How was this chicken prepared?
I didn't say.
How was it prepared? Go ahead, tell us.
Not fried.
It's not fried. Okay.
Grilled with no flavor, no seasoning.
No seasoning, huh? No. Very, very clever, Noah. Way to wiggle your way out of that one.
I'm sweating.
You should be. Yeah. Black Twitter is going to fry you after this.
No, I think it's still on top right now, so I think we're okay.
Oh my god. So I'm going to try to bring it back to a more positive light here. Chris, I wanted to say, first off, thank you on the morning of the Daniil match for you to send something on Twitter about me was that I'm not going to get over that for a long time. Thank you.
I knew you would go get emotional when you read it too, and I was just sitting in bed like I'm gonna just make Mike cry. I hope he cries.
You did.
When you're so soft.
You actually, I cried. All kidding aside, I cried when you won Mallorca. I was watching.
No, did you really?
I was watching with Marnie. She looked at me and she said, "Are you crying?"
No, when I tell you I had to speak to Marnie about this, I asked Marnie. She said my father cried.
My father cried. She didn't even want to. Oh my goodness, she didn't say my dad. She gave you the government title. Government my father.
I wanted to just express how important I thought it was for you to highlight your relationships with and what you've learned from Naomi, from Coco, your talk with Kim Kleisters. I think that was incredibly important, probably overlooked. But I think I just can't say enough about that because I know that's who you are as a person. But the lessons you've learned from top female athletes and how important that is to express that, kudos to you on that, my friend. If you want to say something about that, great. It really touched me for you to be that vocal about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think greatness knows no gender. Like, and one of the things that I've noticed from my time around Naomi, some of the time that I've spent around Serena, the time that I've been around Coco, the time around Kim, some of the greatest tennis players, like, yes, obviously Coco doesn't have a slam and the jury's still out, her career, what she accomplishes. But like, the very least, she's been top 5 in singles, Grand Slam finalist, number 1 in the world in doubles. So like, I'm gonna love her in it when I say it. Some of the greatest tennis players to play it, like in the past 20 years, their mentalities is one of the craziest things that I just found to be so different. And I could see there's a common theme and a common trend amongst really all of them. I think Coco has it at such a young age, which is really impressive, but her competitiveness, like hating to lose, and the mindset that they have, like you say, going into a slam, they don't step foot on, genuinely, I don't think they step foot on the court if they don't think and know they can win or going to win. And I can't say that every time I step foot on the court, I go out there knowing I'm going to win. But I think that I've done the more the time that I've spent around them, and I see that that's kind of how you have to be, the more it's been easier to kind of bring a little bit of that and incorporate a little bit of that into my mentality. And it comes from just being around them and having conversations and talking to them. And I'm incredibly thankful for those relationships because I definitely think that they've served and benefited me greatly. Just being able to have that access to players like that.
I just want to say I was ahead of my time with that Chris Eubanks picking up the phone to to Coco,
you were ahead of your time on that one. I'm sure the Open, you're gonna have a very good one this year, I'm sure.
I mean, it's gonna be a 10-minute long video before I get through your famous people Rolodex at this point.
that was exactly my next question. Your TikTok about him. Who is the most outrageous person that has reached out to you and you've made a connection with over the last couple of weeks?
So I did a talk with Carrie Champion today on her show, and she asked this question, and it was tough to really like pinpoint it because I knew I was going to forget some people. I'll throw some names out there that caught me way off guard. So I got a chance to meet Hugh Jackman in Australia. Right. He came and he supported me in my 3rd round match against O'Connell. That was crazy. Christy Brinkley hosted me on her story, which I was like, what?
Yeah. That wins the prize for me. I was like, wait a second.
Listen. Same. So that one surprised you. That one surprised me a lot. I had one earlier, right before my nap, actually, that I saw for the first time, and I couldn't believe it. It was Sheryl Crow tweeted at me. I'll send it to you. Sheryl Crow tweeted at me, and I was completely like, I think I liked it. So if you go on my Twitter and you search my likes, you should see it. But she tweeted at me. Yeah, it was July 12th. It was like what Wimbledon tweeted that video that says
he's acting like it's not his wallpaper right now.
It said like what a ride. Congratulations on a remarkable run. Sheryl Crow tweeted, tough loss, but Chris Eubanks, you inspired me and my boys today at Wimbledon. Hashtag Christopher Eubanks, hashtag Wimbledon 2023. And I went, Sheryl Crow? So
Dwight Schrute.
Yes, Rainn Wilson.
Dwight,
Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, that was a good one.
He tweeted something?
Yeah, that one went everywhere.
Yes.
I had no idea. I didn't see it. Oh my goodness, I didn't see it. I had no idea. I didn't see it. So that's I gotta go find it. I'm glad you told me that. Wendell Pierce, the actor, he tweeted at me, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, so those are the people that I can name off the top of my head. There's others. There's definitely some people in my phone. I just can't think off the top of my head, but those were the ones that they were just so kind of like what? Like you can know about me? Like that was crazy.
What's the crazy? How thrilled are you? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Blair.
No, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, what's the crazy purchase that comes along with the exorbitant amount of money that you have earned over the last?
Do you own stock in Kith, or how does that work? Is that just?
You have to have one, Chris.
Yeah, the
don't
thing
lie.
Is, I'm not lying. I don't right now, because also it's like I came back. I'm here for maybe a little bit about a week, and then I'm back kind of in tournament mode. So at some point, probably after the
post-US Open,
when I have like 2 or 3 weeks, like I'm going to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do something, but right now I'm just kind of like just setting the
New York is not the place to be. Oh, that is not the place to be.
I'm like Anna Wintour. Sorry, crazy.
Yeah, that's
she, like I think I might get to meet Anna Wintour. Sorry, that just came out of nowhere. Just remember that one. When you said New York, I was like, oh yeah. Speaking of New York,
how does one receive that kind of money?
We get like a legal a legal summons that says at some point at a date to be named
undisclosed,
later, at an undisclosed, Anna Wintour would like to meet you. Sign here, and then they burn it right in front of you, so you can't hold on to it.
The basement of the Met.
That's the Anna Wintour summons, but like that amount of money, like I feel like that's something that nobody ever talks about. Like at the end of a tournament, you go to a desk. I believe there's usually sort of a desk for these things. Is it a direct deposit? Is it a check?
So
how does it work?
You know what's funny is apparently I didn't realize that this was such an interesting point to fans, because I've been asked multiple times, like, how do you get the money? And I'm like, well, I get it. So it's supposed to be wired the Thursday after the tournament. They send the wire on the Thursday. You never really get it until maybe the following Monday or Tuesday. Occasionally, it's been another like Wednesday or the second Wednesday or Thursday after the tournament, and it can be a bit frustrating, especially for players, like especially over slams when you were in qualies. You would always go to the prize money office and ask, like, can you guys send it directly, as opposed to waiting and doing it through the ATP? Because if you wait through the ATP and you lose second round qualies, you got to wait for qualies week to end, first week to end, and second week to end. They send it at the end of that week, and you might not get it for another week. So there's so much time that goes by. But yes, to answer your question, you get a prize money receipt. They show you the tax that they were holding in the country. Ooh, that was tough. That was tough. The tax that's withheld,
30%.
They will take that, and then they give you what's left. But yes, it is a deposit. Wimbledon does a great job as well of just sending it after your match, which is a big help. So it's like whenever your match ends, they typically will send it, I guess, to the end of that day, maybe the day after, but they don't wait until the tournament ends to then allow you to get your money. They send it in between, which is great. A lot of tournaments used to do it. I think the Open used to do it. French definitely used to do it. Australian maybe used to do it, but they all kind of, I think it's maybe a little bit easier just to let it go through the ATP. Just kind of like, oh, the ATP has your info. You can just do it that way. But I think from a player standpoint, it is nice when we can go and say, hey, you're going to send it today, so I'll get it in maybe like 4 days. Okay, great. Like that's a lot better than having to wait sometimes 2 weeks.
So all of that money is in your account now from Mallorca and the quarter?
Yes, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Can we all come and go to Chick-fil-A together?
Oh, yes. I would gladly sponsor a team Chick-fil-A. Except Noah, because Noah thinks I eat fried chicken all the time anyway. You guys are more than welcome.
Know what you're talking about.
They have grilled chicken.
Yeah, but Noah specifically said fried. I heard him. He didn't think I heard him, but I heard him.
God, it's late. Come on. You were sleeping. You were in REM cycle before this.
Man, I think I was twitching too. I was for sure twitching, because when I sleep good, I twitch.
This is officially my last question, and then I feel like Mike.
We can ask questions all night, Blair. I kept you guys waiting. Let's do it. Let's do it.
How thrilled are you that thanks to our like 4x4 production room at the Dallas Open, the world knows that your nicknames are Giraffe, Daddy Long Legs, and Toothpick. The fact that that made it to ESPN.
Yeah. Blair, you are so famous. Can I have an autograph?
No, well, all you could hear is me wheezing in the background, but
No, it was Maddie that was doing the wheezing.
Oh, no.
No, it was
that
Blair.
is me from behind
Blair,
the
that
camera.
was you doing that wheezing in there?
Yes, because I have ruined so many shoots because I have laughed through
I
stuff.
thought that was Maddie the whole time.
She was a silent laugher. Yes, no, it was me. I was the wheezer.
Blair, come on.
I'll wheeze for you now if you want me to. It's not great. But no, I think in some ways, though, that's what made you relatable. Just like because we all have ridiculous nicknames. I don't know. That didn't make you. A lot of things make you relatable, to be clear. But just you being able to have fun with that sort of thing is part of it.
Yeah, Coco just all of a sudden just hijacked the giraffe emoji and just use it specifically for my Instagram now. That's this thing to do. It's always giraffe. Now other people are doing it, and it's taking on a life of its own. The Daddy Longlegs one, that one caught me completely out of left field by Sloan. That was very good by her. And Toothpick by Francis. I knew that one, so I wasn't too shocked at it. And that's just classic Francis for you. But yeah, no, I guess now I have so many
people
different nicknames. People, I got options. You get you somebody who can do it all, right? You call me. You got about 4 or 5 names. You want me to talk about tennis, you want me to play tennis, you want me to what you need, I got it. I'm like a Swiss Army knife,
I don't think you want like any of the nicknames that Noah has for you though.
No, you know why? Because they're probably motivated by race. It's all Noah just loves the good old race.
No, the glass houses. No, we're perfectly fine here. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noah, any last thoughts from you, big fella? Have you paid?
Gonna have a lot to say when we stop recording. Where I
just wanted to post a thank you video, and now 500,000 people see your hand in my face when it actually went viral.
Hey, can we talk about you adding me as a contributor to that post, Noah?
So there was like
my Instagram. There was like a chance. You won. I saw that. I said, I know he didn't really add. My Instagram has been flooded over the past like 4 or 5 days. Is the guy really just trying to get some attention?
That's the end of it. I said I was just gonna steal some clout. Yeah.
Have you met Noah?
What else are you good for?
Jeez.
Any last thoughts from the actual talented journalist here? You've hit with a Wimbledon quarterfinalist over the last couple of months. I mean, that's a big deal.
I will say I do appreciate that enough people saw that the number of texts I got. Chris,
no way.
I'm not lying. Like, are you taking credit? I was like, no, if you actually look at the results, he needed a couple of weeks to get it out of his system. And then he started to play well.
His detox program.
It was not immediate. Good stuff. No, I think my final thought is just that, I don't know. It's like a very pure feeling to have, to just be really, really happy for someone. And I feel like we all sort of felt that. And it was just like a pure emotion. I don't know. It was just really cool as an observer. And I know it was really cool for you. And there are going to be so many things that happen in your life in the next few months. But yeah, it just, there's like a proud of you-ness, but that makes me feel like I'm 95 years old, but just, yeah, just really happy for you.
Well, Blair, I don't want to speak for you, but like, I think you and I, the fact that we are a little bit older than these players, right? There's that kind of like big brother, big sister type of thing that, we get very lucky to have these relationships with Chris, with Noah. Well, maybe not so much with Noah, but with a lot of different players. And it's, a lot of people always ask me, are you proud of Chris? And I'm just like, well, sure. I'm just more so just happy for him because I know how hard he's worked. I've had that special window in to kind of see that. And I think that's the same for you, Blair, is that we get to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And it's so remarkable when everything comes together and you see somebody who is just a great human being get to have a great moment and get lauded for that great moment. And that was so cool for me. Like, I couldn't even watch your matches. Like, I couldn't watch the Steph match. David Nankin's giving me updates on Medvedev. He's like, that's the best tennis I've seen in years. That the third
Nank said that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I can't. I'm just so happy for him. I just can't. You deserve all of that. And that's what I'm left with, is that you worked hard, you put in the time, and on top of it, you've treated every single person that you've dealt with over these last 6 years with humanity and kindness. And so for you to have that moment and get all of this kindness shown back to you is, I think, as deserving as it gets. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I mean, what a way to go out there. You trying to muster up a little emotion from me. You came close.
I was right there.
Strong. Man,
we started with adult film stars.
I mean, and look at how far we've come already. Jeez. But no, seriously, thank you, Mike. I'm sure the perspective that I think you've had has been probably a very unique one, because you've seen it's going to sound like super old, but you've seen so much, and you've seen so many players at different stages in their career. You've seen the young phenoms that have come up past you and leave the challenges and never come back. You've seen the players who start off as young phenoms go up through the challenges, come back down for a little bit, have to find their way, and then go back up. So you've seen so many, and you've seen the players who've worked like me to take a while to kind of get there, and then all of a sudden it's like they're just kind of shot out of a cannon, and they're experiencing a lot of success on some of the bigger tournaments. And you've seen all that, and so your perspective, I think, is a very, very unique one, because not many people can say that. Like a lot of commentators, if they work, just at the Grand Slams, they see, the young talents of Alcaraz and like Holger Rune, Sinner, Musetti, they see them come up, but like they didn't see as much of like the come up, like the original come up. They saw after they had already kind of mastered certain levels of their game or elements of their game that allowed them to progress past the top 150 or top 100. So your perspective, I think, is really, really cool, because you've seen it in the beginning, you've seen players go up, come back down, and you've seen players work to get there. And so for you to say all of that, I think that really means a lot, because I think what you've seen in tennis is probably unlike a lot of other people in the sport.
That is accurate. Yeah, I have seen some shit, to say the least, and most of it has involved Tennis Sandgren.
Wow,
it's weird how, like, we had another one of those moments in Chicago a couple weeks ago. You would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Chris Eubanks, thank you. Blair, it's always a pleasure as well. I'm glad you could lend some gravitas to this podcast. I appreciate that very much.
And I felt really honored to be here, and I am not joking. So I will be anyone's cheerleader in this Zoom call anytime. You just let me know. I will cheer you on.
And again, sorry for being late, because I was been a long one. So, but
we should have known. We thought the ghosting 31 in the world, but we should have known it was just a long nap. It's just a long nap.
He just got too big time, huh? He just forgot all about us. No, zero chance about that.
We love you, pal.
Thanks. We love everybody here. Bye.
The show might be over, but the conversation isn't. Join us on social media at NoahRubin33, at Mike C. Tennis, and at Behind the Racquet.
Expect new episodes every Monday or Tuesday. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. It really helps us expand and reach more listeners as we take you behind the racket.